luxury export for the United States, export luxury for the United States. There are a lot of good people who believe that's what Lexus means. But no, it's just one of those juicy urban legends like the one that says the owner of Graal is Gugu and Graal means group. Augusto Liberato Food Road. Food Road. It's awesome, isn't it? But let's talk about Lexus, a brand that Toyota created, mainly targeting the American market in the 80s. It saw an opportunity there, right? The American luxury market was dominated by traditional American players like Cadillac and Lincoln, whose products were very outdated, and by European products like Mercedes and BMW, which were very expensive. So if we delivered more quality for less cost, we would take off, and that's what happened. First with the LS sedan, and later Lexus. Introduced the RX at the end of the 90s, which is, believe it or not, the first luxury crossover in history. It was Lexus that invented this segment. The RX was the brand's best seller for many years in the United States. It's still one of the best-selling cars, selling over 100,000 units per year alone in the United States. And Lexus became a global player, right? Nowadays, in 2025, it sold over 800,000 units, of which 400,000 in North America, right? The North American market is still the market. Primary, but maybe. A lot of people you know who like cars might not recognize this logo, the Lexus L logo, right? Lexus brand awareness in Brazil is still quite low. And even thinking about the expansion into China, right, which is already one of the brand's main markets, that the brand doesn't do much. It changed here. On the back, there used to be that L, but now it spells out Lexus exactly so people know what it is. We're here in the RX 450 hybrid, right? H Plus is the brand's plug-in hybrid. I'll have to open it here to show you. Look how cool this is. The handle is there's a little trigger there, a small button inside. My friends, for 600,000 rees, right? And we start to understand, I'm gonna sit here in the air conditioning because it's blazing hot outside, here at Capoava Farm. We start to understand why Lexus is still such a niche brand in Brazil, right? They sell about 1,000 cars a year here. That's about the same as how many Porsche 911s they sell, right? So the entire Lexus lineup has the entire Toyota network, right? More than 300 Toyota dealerships. Obviously, not all of them sell Lexus, but that's the premise, right? If Toyota wanted to expand the Lexus network to 50, 100, 150 units just by using its Toyota brand network, it could. Even with all that strength, the brand, with its entire lineup here in Brazil, which includes the UX, the NX, now the RZ, this VQP, the ES sedan, which we still see in São Paulo, usually armored, usually serving some corporate client. All this lineup sells only about 1,000 cars. In Brazil, that's very little, right? The RX, which is a sales champion in the United States, in this hybrid version here, 308 combined horsepower. Mysterious torque, right? We know that Toyota doesn't disclose the combined torque. But there are 2 electric motors and 1 combustion engine. The 2 electric motors together have 45 kilogram meters of torque, and the torque peak should be around 50. Here it is, look. Electric motor in the front with 180 horsepower. There's an electric motor in the back. It's an AWD car, right? All-wheel drive, precisely because the rear axle is powered by this 50 horsepower electric motor. Combined power of 308 horsepower. 0 to 100 in 6.5, which is surprising for a car that here, in the middle of this big lawn, has a trunk of over 600 liters. The temporary spare tire, right, is a demand from Brazilian consumers. Premium Brazilian consumers reject the repair kit. With some reason, right? After all, it is you to be stranded because your beautiful 21-inch rim with a profile, low profile. Getting a tear in the tire is much more common on the terrible Brazilian roads than in the North American market, right? Where Lexus has its main market, right? But coming back here, the acceleration numbers are actually surprising because this car, my friends, well, lost in the middle of the big lawn here at Fazenda Capoava, where we came to drive. Look at the irony. This is the most expensive hybrid Toyota SUV you can get in Brazil today. Around 600,000, While the cheapest one, right, the Yaris Cross, we've already done a video on the channel about it, but look, it's a car with American dimensions. 4.9 meters, almost 5 meters, 4.89 meters to be precise. Take a look at this wheelbase here. 2.85 meters. I spent a week. What you're seeing here is a real life video. It's taking Noah to preschool. Here's the car seat, proving I'm not lying. See all this extra space in front of the car seat, right? With this long wheelbase, it's a car made for, it is really plus size Americans, right? To fit big people here, it's really a big car, isn't it? We're piling on cliches. It's the soccer mom car. The upscale American type, right? If you are a mom who takes the kids to soccer practice, right? The kind we call football, and the family is doing well. Money-wise, you might use a Lexus RX. It sold over 100,000 units in the United States last year. It's a car that competes, you know, in that category for premium SUVs, which in Brazil we could almost call super premium. Mid-size. It's a car the size of a BMW X5, a Mercedes GLE, a Volvo XC60, which here in Brazil is the leader of this segment, because it actually comes in at a very competitive price, right? And that's the big challenge, right? When we have an XC60 with 462 horsepower, starting below 500,000 Rs, it's hard for the Lexus here at 600 grand to compete, even though it's a product that really delights in many ways. You can see this box here. It's a suitcase that I got at the Yaris Cross event, and I need to share this moment with you. No one has ever loaded the trunk of a Yaris Cross faster than I did. Take a look. Coming back here, you can see that the lid opens, right? Refined touches with a little button, a latch here. You can also see the signature here, Mark Levinson, that you probably don't even know unless you're a real audiophile. But since I mentioned it, Lexus invented the luxury crossover segment. They also invented something else that became a craze in the industry, the branded audio system, right? Lexus invented the branded audio system with Mark Levinson, right, when it was searching for differentiators to compete with Mercedes, BMW, and Volvo, which are long-established brands in the American market, right? She called. The people from Mark Levinson, which is a professional audio brand, they make audio equipment for recording studios, for example. It's not a brand of audio equipment for consumers. For end consumers, primarily, like, I don't know, Harman Kardon, JBL. Then Mark Levinson, created an awesome sound system for the LS back then, for the big sedan. And back then, the idea of a branded sound system was unheard of. For example, a Lexus might have a Mark Levinson sound system, but it wasn't labeled as such because no one had considered branding it. Then later, that the branded sound became a craze, then Lexus cars with Mark Levinson sound systems started carrying that branding. You can see here, how cool? A reverb on top of panel. Really, it's a very design-driven car. Lexus cars have this very elaborate design and an interior with very rich trim and a variety of materials. It's a shame that it's all black on black on black and nothing stands out that much. Look, my last day with him, I'm getting to Sao Paulo now to return it, and I'll return him with a slight ache in my heart. Those cars that as you use them day by day, you start getting attached to them. And it, even though it's hard to defend this car at 600,000 Rs, especially considering so many big premium Chinese newcomers that came in at much lower prices. But it's an excellent companion for bringing you an almost Zen experience, like of reducing your daily stress in Sao Paulo traffic. Or if that's the case, then do the following. Make yourselves comfortable on this big chest, the result of a lot of diet and training. And let's speed up this big guy here, which has dynamic behavior. Surprising, unexpected, as Fausto Silva would say, right? But it is a car that, you see the cluster here from the RAV4, right? The RAV4 hybrid itself. offers nearly the same powertrain for 200,000 Rs less. A car that, in certain aspects, this platform, which is from 2023, also starts to show some little signs of age. Let's dive deeper into this topic. So let's head to Capwava Racetrack. Real world here, launch of the Yaris Cross, a few things, right? This 2023 platform, how fast technology moves, right? We can feel how some things age. First, there are 3 steps before you can start driving, right? For example, in my EC40, I get in, put it in D and start driving. Here, I need to turn the car on, put it in D and look. The parking brake doesn't release automatically. I need to take one more step here. Ah, I died because of that. Of course not. But we see how certain things that 4 years ago, 3 years ago, were perfectly normal in a car that in the Brazilian market is a super premium car, right? But it's really a premium car. In the United States, it's a car that costs over $70,000 by now. It's almost unacceptable, right? You get into a Geely X2 that costs 100 grand and none of this needs to be done. And then that experience, man, of American luxury, I feel it. I spent a week with this car here in Sao Paulo. I feel like I'm in California. Maybe you can see, I don't think you can, Noah's car seat there. I took him to school because the school bus still didn't work this week. All week I felt like an American soccer mom there with this big Lexus that's 4 meters and 90 centimeters long to take a baby of 12 kilos at school. Classic overkill, right?
Red light camera ahead.
There's a red light camera ahead, so stay alert. But it's not just about the size for their needs, right? The flavor, the focus, right? The engineering direction of Lexus is very focused on the American market where they are very, that's it, this family car, often a second car, right? The RX, a big hit, a huge sales success there, right? The Lexus, the best-selling one in the United States since that first generation of the RX came out. It was a car. It's still a car that is highly sought after. Its main selling point is its unique, sophisticated, and eye-catching design.
Sorry, I'm having trouble understanding you.
That's another modern problem, right? You say Lexus and the car already thinks you're talking to it, right? But continuing with my line of thought, which was they sped up, but there was no camaraderie. That's not how you drive in traffic. Yeah. Just another guy who distracted me. Moby opened the door here without looking. São Paulo, the eve of Carnival, guys. But it's a car that still has its design as one of its main selling points, right? Both the exterior design. I really like the 3/4 rear view. The front, this kind of nose, kind of. Think of someone with a big nose like goalkeeper Sergio from Palmeiras. Shout out to Tony. It works well for Tony, for goalkeeper Sergio. It doesn't work so well here on the Lexus, but the 3/4 rear view I think is really beautiful. But the first RX was a car that really brought a new level of design to this segment. Actually, it created this premium crossover segment in the United States. And by creating, it showed automakers they had a cash cow, right? A golden goose, one that's kept paying off ever since. So much so that all the premium brands have their own products in this line, right? And then going back, right, American experience. So the steering wheel with a really thin rim, right? Really light, kind of like a Cadillac, you know, and that's a fascinating study in human psychology. But it's one of those things that, in my opinion, this kind of steering wheel is what drives the most. With a thin rim and very light, like this, you know, as if it were, obviously I'm exaggerating, but as if it were a big sedan from the 60s. So the Cadillac, the Galaxy that you saw here on the channel recently. It's one of the things that most automatically leads you to have a calmer, more relaxed driving style, you know? The opposite of sportiness, I think it's almost therapeutic. It really calms a guy down in São Paulo traffic. The cluster here, almost like a Corolla Cross cluster, right? Also like a RAV4 cluster, right? In 2023, I think that even the screen resolution is pretty high. I don't think it bothered anyone in 2023. By 2026, it already feels out of place in a car costing 600,000 Rs, right? But look now, The combustion engine just woke up a bit. It's a great companion, right? For a relaxing bit of luxury amid the stress of São Paulo traffic, aside from the car's size, right? Sometimes it can be a bit of a squeeze to fit. And another thing I mentioned, right? The quality of the materials. This leather on the steering wheel, for example, is so soft you just want to wrap yourself in it. Suede here on the doors with Mark Levinson sound system, leather on the door, a rubberized finish. You can see that this material here is different from this one here. The seats too, right? There's suede combined with leather, with the stitching here, leather, wood here, and everything is black, 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 black. Due to the absurd conservatism of the Brazilian consumer. Man, the quality of the materials is one of the things that stands out the most, right? The interior design is one of the car's greatest attributes. And you hide all of that by not having any color variation. You see some beautiful configurations of this car in the United States, right? Multicolored, even with light wood. The leather here on the gear lever as well. Anyway, what a waste that everything is black. The traffic is terrible. As you can see, I'll be back with more driving impressions on the road in a moment. But after all, how does it drive, Congressman? You can see that the 308 horsepower and the mysterious torque do their job well.
Speed camera ahead?
There's a speed camera ahead. Yeah, keep it around 50 kilometers per hour. But interesting, right? We don't have driving modes in the sense of like a sportier mode, a more comfortable mode, or an off-road mode. Why not? It's an all-wheel drive car. Keep in mind that the rear axle is powered by the electric motors and the front axle by the combustion engine. But it has something very interesting in this. Formula One preseason context. Here it is, look, the driving modes. It has the EV mode, right? You see the combustion engine is gone, right? The electric motors do all the work of propulsion. I think with the battery at 2 bars, like it is now, if I step on it right now, then you see there the EV mode flashed. And yeah, it's like, guys, if that's what you want, my dear driver, if it's all the power you want, I'll have to call on the combustion engine. Then it automatically switched back to hybrid mode. And when I coast, when I take my foot off the accelerator, it goes to EV. Our average fuel consumption is 14.9, right? For an SUV that's almost 5 meters long, that's pretty good. But here's the interesting part. If you hold this button here, then it goes into charge mode. See, CHG mode appeared there. And then look at this. You can see that I pressed the accelerator a bit and the RPM went way up. Exactly, and the car didn't move forward that much. The engine revs higher than it should, so to speak. That's exactly what energy recovery is in current Formula One. That's exactly why Max Verstappen was already doing it in the first practice in Bahrain. Old second gear corners are now taken in first, and third gear corners in second, to give that spike in engine revs and charge the battery more, right? And it's interesting, right? We have the ECVT here as the transmission. How it really is, the accelerator stays ready. Like this, you give it a little push. The revs shoot up even with just a little pressure on the pedal, just so you know. Precisely to help recharge the battery. And we quickly gained a little bar here. When I spun the camera, we were at 1, and it went to 2. I think even in terms of performance, right? Of course, peak performance drops because some power recharges the battery instead of moving the car forward. But it doesn't make the car lousy, let's say. Maybe 10% less, 5% less. Yeah. It actually feels pretty nice here in the city because the car becomes very responsive, you know? That's a big difference. Since we started by comparing it to the XC60, that's a big difference compared to the XC60. It doesn't have such an aggressive charging mode, capable of delivering results so quickly, let's put it that way. The head-up display in this car is excellent, right? It shows the speedometer, which you can't see, the lane-keeping assist lines, and a compass, which is always very useful. But what's really cool are the capacitive buttons here. Sometimes they're a bit annoying, right? You barely touch them and they already activate, but they open a little menu. Yeah, on the head-up display for each function. There are only 4 small arrows here, and I'm not sure what each does. When I press here, It appears here, for example, here it changes the track, and below it activates voice command. On the other side, the other control pod, same thing. These are the controls for the cruise control. So here I activate the ACC. Here I choose whether it's adaptive or not. And here we have lane keeping on and off. It's really cool how the head-up display adapts, and now I've turned on the adaptive cruise mode here, set to 73. It maintains distance from the truck ahead and handles steering. I really can't understand in what situation in Brazil is this useful, but anyway, that's just me, right? Yeah. The power of charge mode really is, yeah, like, it's so calm and normal driving. I'm taking it out of charge mode and leaving it here. See, it's back to EV mode. Since we've gained another bar, you can see how fast charge mode is. So it can already run just with the electric motor, right? Starting from 3 bars. Yeah. But what's really interesting is it's such a comfortable car, so smooth, so quiet in normal use, that you don't expect it to be. Now, it didn't do that in EV mode, but outside of EV mode, let's put it here in normal hybrid mode. You don't expect it to be so responsive when you ask for it, right? It's kind of a dual personality car, kind of Jekyll and Hyde. Another cool thing, there's a second button here on the console that you leave on automatic. This switching between hybrid mode and electric mode is handled automatically. Yeah, more efficient, right? And all of this results, as I said, in average fuel economy of around 15 kilometers per liter. And very interesting ranges, right? You see right now it even breaks it down, right? We only have 2 kilometers to go in EV mode. And then the total range with the hybrid, 543. I'm going to take it out of automatic here. And I'm going to leave it. Yeah. Always in our hybrid mode here, which is the default mode. Or let's leave it in charge mode, which keeps the acceleration livelier. You can't see any lively acceleration in this traffic jam, right? We'll be right back. Power, look how it picks up speed, 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in 6.5, right? Top speed of 200 kilometers per hour. I'm curious to see how this boat handles at 200. Let's switch off charge mode for a more authentic experience. But even the roar is nice. 2.5 Atkinson, this car even had a 3.5 V6. There will be a vehicle on the shoulder ahead. It was a 3.5 V6 in the previous generation, right? And then came this one, 2.5 plug-in, electric only range, right? If you have a full battery, it's 56 kilometers. It's less than in the XC60, but it used to be more, right? The XC60 was updated in that regard recently. But anyway, you can see the CVT working there, right? It does a good job. It just shifted to 4th here, simulated gears in our CVT, 3rd, 2nd. But when shifting up, it doesn't, you saw it went from 3rd, 4th, 5th. You don't feel any gear change. When downshifting, yes. So we don't hit the Renegade. Well, 3rd, 2nd, it even helps with weight transfer. The revs don't drop, right? From 3rd to 4th, 4th to 5th. The paddles only simulate on downshifting, which is where you really need it, right? To have the feature, let's say, of engine braking. The cluster, you see here, calling it the Corolla Cross cluster. It's better to call it the RAV4 cluster, right? It's not customizable. The small customizable screens open menus. Look, so it is that on the right side, I can get more information. Look, this is for repositioning the head-up display. You guys can't see any of this? How interesting. My information is super useful. Here we have the sound and phone information. When I press it, it switches here to media. And look how cool, it even shows what's playing. Awesome. It's the kind of thing that takes some time to get used to, right? The owner needs to explore it a bit. But whatever, I really enjoyed my little week with the RX 450 Plus. Yeah, It's just that, the market has changed a lot since then, and it's hard to justify 600,000 Rs for this car, especially when you can have an XC60 Polestar, top of the line with 462 horsepower, acceleration in about 5 seconds. Much sportier chassis, much sportier handling. Right? You see, I didn't even open the Chinese tab, right? Chinese brands are offering something very similar in terms of performance, space, and size. It doesn't deliver the prestige and reliability of the Lexus brand. But there are Chinese brands delivering a similar formula, right? For 200,000 Rs less. We can understand. All of this helps explain why Lexus sells in Brazil about as much as the Porsche 911. About 1,000 units per year. It shows that there's still a lot of work to be done by Lexus in Brazil. Yeah, there's still a lot of work to be done. Not only in terms of brand expansion, awareness, and all that, but also in terms of offerings and pricing. Yeah, maybe some products like the Lexus IS sedan. Now the RZ has arrived too, with a more contemporary design. A very visually appealing car. Maybe something Lexus lacks in Brazil. A halo product. A product that brings people to the showroom. Right? The coupe. This current generation of the SC coupe. If we were to do something that irresponsible, it's missing things that create desirability. First comes awareness. Very few people know what Lexus is in Brazil. And of those few, how many consider the brand? Maybe 10% of that 10%. It's a very small universe. But there's a lot of room to grow. Agree, disagree, share your opinion. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. Let's head to Capoava Racetrack. The Yaris Cross, the most affordable hybrid SUV.
Left lane blocked ahead.
And be aware that the left lane will be blocked. Thanks a lot, take good care of yourselves. And a huge hug. Good thing it has brakes. 3, 2, 1. Maybe that's missing too.